Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully people can hear me. Cool.
Yeah,
So,
I certainly can.
cool, thanks. Sorry,
can.
my mic was a bit funny. Just because it's very much an international environment and I am Bristolian, I've also got caption at the bottom for you to follow along. So today we're here to talk about local directory integration, which otherwise known as local authentication, connecting to a local directory. What we're going to cover, I can't move slides. There we go. So first, a bit of housekeeping. We are recording the webinar, so it will be put on YouTube and shared after. You are muted, but feel free to ask questions as we go along using the Q&A box. And if pertinent right away, Sophie will ask immediately, else we'll save the questions till after the presentation. What I'm going to cover today is basically what do we mean by local directory integration? So what is it? Why is it important? How can you set it up yourself? And if you can't set it up yourself, how we can help you do so. First, it would be quite nice, if you don't mind, Sophie is going to pop up a little poll. It should be a short little poll just asking, if you don't already have some form of local directory connection, why don't you have that?
Yeah, so I'm going to launch that now. We still have attendees coming in, so we might leave this up for a minute or so. Although maybe people coming in, they might get a bit confused, but we'll see the responses we get. The responses are anonymous as well. However, if you press other and you want to type into the chat box, please be aware that won't be anonymous, but just for your clarification.
Super. So whilst that poll is still open, I will just carry on with the presentation and we'll review that maybe a little bit at the end.
Yeah, I think actually, sorry, Adam, if we just because there's a fair bit of reading, if we just,
okay.
yeah, just kind of leave it here for a minute or so. So I don't want people to have too much to concentrate on. So yes, if you've pressed other and you'd like to share what your answer is, please pop it in the Zoom chat box. If you don't know where that is in your in the little tab along the bottom. So we've got a few people saying they don't understand what it is. So it's great that you're here. So hopefully we'll clear that up. Don't have an existing single sign-on system, isn't useful or appropriate. Got a fair, even mix actually, but mostly people saying they don't understand what it is.
Super. Well, hopefully this presentation will address some of that to give you a better understanding on what it is we mean by local directory integration.
Yeah. Great. So yeah, I'll probably end the poll now just so there's not too much on the screen. But thank you so much for everyone who has voted. Awesome. Great.
So, what is local directory integration? In essence, it's connecting in an existing single sign-on system into OpenAthens. So that could be Azure, otherwise known as Office 365, ADFS, G Suite, Ping, Okta. There's loads of different local directories or single sign-on systems out there that can be used with OpenAthens. And by connecting in one of those directories, ultimately, it's then about utilizing your existing user accounts to sign into OpenAthens. So instead of having to create and manage OpenAthens user accounts within what I think we used to refer to as the managed directory, you can use your existing ones. There's a rule-based system for you to configure dynamic assignment, I guess, of users. So creating them in sub-organizations, say, if you've got different campuses or colleges, universities, healthcare trusts, that kind of thing. You can also automatically assign permission sets based on these rules. And you can also map in additional user data, for example, for reporting. So if you want to, I don't know, do a report based on cost center or partner institution, that kind of thing, you can do that. All of that is optional, but it's available. So with the options of local directory integration, largely there are, I guess, four different options. There's LDAP, which most commonly is an Active Directory instance. We do have a local authentication API, which allows you to build effectively your own system to prompt users to sign in using, I don't know, say a library portal login or some other database that you might be connected to. We do also integrate with Circe Dynix, specifically using the Symfony API. And largely what the vast majority of people do is connect in with a SAML-based system, of which there are many out there: ADFS, CAS, Office 365, G Suite. The list is endless. But if you have one, it will improve the user experience. There is a slight thing I want to talk about the difference between same sign-on versus single sign-on. So with these local directory integration options, LDAP and Circe, the way in which they're built, I guess, they do indeed utilize the existing credentials that are managed within the directory. So within, for example, Active Directory with LDAP, the Circe administration area with Circe Dynix. But whilst that does allow for same sign-on, they don't actually support single sign-on. So if you, say, logged into your email that was using your LDAP credentials, then you click a link to a resource, you will be taken to a sign-in page where you'd need to enter those credentials again. And that's what we mean by same sign-on as opposed to single sign-on, which certainly with SAML-based systems, Shibboleth, Ping, Okta, etc., the way in which they are built does mean that it's a real single sign-on situation. So if you've logged into email that may be Outlook online or Gmail, and then you click a link to a resource, you won't be prompted to sign in because you've already got that session with your single sign-on system. So if you do have a single sign-on system in place already, I would certainly prioritize connecting that into OpenAthens as opposed to building a like LDAP connection or a Circe connection. Why is it important to do this? So one, no more additional usernames and passwords for users, patrons, people that are using OpenAthens. So they get to use the existing account that they use within your organization already. So it's more familiar, it's more consistent, and is one less thing to remember. And that's basically around the user experience, the fact that they won't need to enter credentials again if they've already signed in. So we use the term kind of true single sign-on. Reduced admin overhead, the fact that you're not having to manage accounts as such within OpenAthens. You don't need to create them. You don't need to do password resets, which in theory then reduces the support overhead. So because it's all handled within your single sign-on system, you don't need to do that additionally within OpenAthens. And of course, it's compatible with a lot of your existing stuff. So if you've got Office 365, people are already familiar logging into that. You can do the same with OpenAthens, same with G Suite and all the other systems. So it's just a bit more consistent. The good thing as well about the no additional usernames and passwords, reduced admin overhead, reduced support overhead. The reason we're saying that's reduced is whoever would be managing OpenAthens doesn't need to worry about that, because all of the credentials, the user accounts, it's already being managed by IT, HR, or whomever is looking after that internally. But the key takeaway is basically the improved user experience. So again, kind of going over what we've already discussed, but what does that mean to the end user? Repeating basically why it's important. There's no additional credentials to remember. It's already familiar to them if they're already using the single sign-on system to access internal applications or services. It isn't odd. You don't, in theory, need to do additional training. And the good thing about a single sign-on system is they're unlikely to even see a sign-in screen. Going through the example again, if you've already logged into email, for example, you navigate to a resource that is behind OpenAthens, you'll be taken straight to that resource because you're already signed in to that single sign-on system. And then that kind of means that you can integrate all of that. That single sign-on ecosystem could cover both the e-resources as well as all of the local systems. So IT systems, HR systems, anything that you're accessing within your organization. Just to maybe demonstrate visually, so if you're using OpenAthens accounts and you're managing them, you might see a screen similar to this, which is the OpenAthens sign-in screen, which, as you can see, I've customized it. I forgot I did that. But yeah, you can customize the login screen so that it is a little bit more user-friendly, I guess. But if you're using an existing single sign-on system, they would see something that they're familiar with that you use for other things. So Google, ADFS, and this is our Office 365 login, because we actually use that here internally. How do we get that set up? So if you wanted to do this completely self-service, we've tried to make it as user-friendly and intuitive as possible. It's certainly well documented. So I've popped the link on the bottom of this slide. But ultimately, liaise with your IT team or whomever is actually working with your single sign-on system or your local directory. Discuss the requirements. So is it just a case of we want to sign into OpenAthens, or do you want to utilize existing data within your directory to report on them, as I say, like cost center, partner college, something like that? Then it's a case of configuring things in your local system. So establishing that connection with OpenAthens, building trust between the two parties, setting up all the relevant attribute or claims rules so that it's sending the correct data to OpenAthens. And a lot of systems, you then need to grant access to your users within that system. You then basically do the same thing in OpenAthens. So you register the local authentication system in OpenAthens, establishing that connection, mapping in those attributes for both signing in, for permissions, for reporting, and then ultimately test it and go live. So obviously that's a very simplified, quick overview of the basics of what you need to do. It is, as I say, well documented. And just from an OpenAthens perspective, I'll just go over what you do in our system. So within your administration area, there is under management and connections, that's where you manage your local directory connections. You can click add, you get a bunch of options. So just going down the SAML route for the minute. So something like ADFS, Azure, Google, Ping, SHIB. Provide the metadata for that. That will basically present you with something like this, where the only mandatory field that we need for any local connection is really a unique user attribute. And that in general is so that we can create that pseudonymous ID, the targeted ID, that we then send to service providers, to vendors, to publishers. But in addition to that one mandatory attribute, you do have the option to map in additional attributes. So first name, last name, email, EPPN, whatever it is you may want. So cost center, if you wanted to report on that, department, etc. And again, you can then set up the permission sets. So that's either for granting permissions or providing group attributes to people, as well as it serving a function of granting permission. You can also restrict access. So if there's a certain, I don't know, cohort of people or a certain group of people that do not have access or shouldn't be permitted to access OpenAthens, you can also suspend their access. As I say, it's relatively straightforward, and we've tried to make it easy to do from a self-service perspective, because of course that's largely what we're here to do, to simplify things. But if you can't do it for any number of reasons, either you don't have the right access or don't have the confidence, don't know. But if you do want our help, of course, our service desk are here for general help and support, but we do offer a paid service as well. So that's something where we'll basically do a lot of the work for you, either working with IT and walking them through stuff on their end, configuring everything on the OpenAthens end, project manage the whole thing from start to finish. And throughout that process, we were just discussing additional requirements around reporting, whether you need to release attributes to other service providers, etc. And if you do want to take us up on that, then contact your account manager or email contact@openathens.net. So I'm conscious that that was a very whistle-stop tour through what LDI is. It's trying to be quick and thorough, but ultimately leaving time for questions, because I'm sure there are many.
Yeah, there are some questions. Thank you so much, Adam. So we're going to start off in kind of the order they came in. So what is the difference between Azure LDAP and Azure ADFS?
Okay, so LDAP is basically a protocol. Don't ask me what it stands for, but it's a protocol. In essence, a communication protocol. So it's not a system, it's not a piece of software per se. It's just a method of managing user data within a directory and then passing that to other places. That's why it's a same sign-on thing and not a single sign-on thing. ADFS, or Active Directory Federation Services, is a SAML IDP, identity provider. So that does things in a, I guess, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a different method of transferring information, ultimately. With Azure itself, so that's kind of a hosting platform. You can do VMs and hosting. But within Azure, yes, you can do LDAP connections if you're using Azure Active Directory. There is also a SAML IDP element to it, which is, I think it's called Azure Connect. I can't remember what it's called. ADFS is actually something different. ADFS itself is a piece of software that is installed locally on a Windows server. that serves the same purpose as Azure from a SAML perspective.
Fab. So Scott has actually said on this topic about kind of the security differences between ADFS and LDAP, saying that ADFS is more secure than LDAP.
I would 100% agree with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Because with an OpenAthens connection to LDAP, we do only permit secure connections. So everything over LDAP-S or Start TLS. We don't currently support connecting in via a VPN, but again, we do only permit secure connections. But I would agree that inherently SAML using that is more secure because you're not actually exposing the directory to a third party. Yes, we are a trusted third party, but you're still opening the door to your internal network, whereas you're not really doing that with SAML because it's all done over the web, I guess.
Yeah. So we've had another question. This is this isn't related to LGI. Yvonne's asked about customization of her OA resource page in terms of color logo messages. You can either answer this, Adam, or I can point Yvonne to a different 101 episode where we kind of go into this, or I can kind of help Yvonne myself, but it's up to you, Adam. I don't know if you want to.
So was that specifically about the resource list, did you say?
So she says into the front page of OA resources page. It might be that Yvonne was referring to this, I'm not too sure.
Okay, yeah, because there's two elements of OpenAthens where an end user, a patron, whatever you call them, would access or interact with OpenAthens. One would be the login page. So this is customizable. You can add a logo. I've been very imaginative and added an OpenAthens logo. You can change the button color. As you can see, I've put some intro text. There's even some footer text, but limited customization options there. But otherwise, if you're talking about the resource homepage, I'm assuming that you're referring to MyAthens. So that is our user portal, I guess. Kind of a lightweight user portal where you can customize it with adding links and panels. At present, really the only visual customization, you can add a logo towards the top of MyAthens, and you can create additional panels within MyAthens where you can add images and text and change the color and font of stuff, but that is limited. The good news, however, we are redeveloping MyAthens, so there's a project underway with that, so it will look hopefully miles better than the current MyAthens.
Yeah, so Yvonne was saying yes to the that screen. So hopefully that will help Yvonne. We also have some OpenAthens documentation and a different 101 recorded webinar, which goes through kind of general customization opportunities within, the opportunity you have as a OpenAthens administrator. So I'll make sure this is included in the follow-up to this webinar.
Great.
So a question, can EBSCO manage the process? And I think this is in relation to the kind of consultancy offer of us doing the setup.
Indeed they can, yes. So OpenAthens does, as I mentioned on, was it this slide? Yes. Consultancy for helping with local directory connections. EBSCO, as well as many of our other partners, can help through this as well. Absolutely, yeah. Think of our partners as an extension of us, really. So we try to make them as integrated as possible.
Scott has also said, this is more of a kind of a support of what you were saying. I think this is in relation to one of the earlier slides. By having the library use being local directory integrated means we are properly echoing the official university position about who is or who isn't a legit user of library services. I don't know if you want to kind of further comment on that, Adam.
Yeah, that's a good point. A word I haven't really used enough, I guess, through the presentation is around authentication. Trying not to get too technical. When you think that in order to log into OpenAthens, you as an institution, as an organization, authenticate the user. And then when we pass them to a vendor, a publisher, for them to do the authorization, they are doing that on the basis that you have, as an organization, have authenticated that they are a genuine user, they are who they say they are. The good thing about using a local directory connection is it's explicit, I guess. If they're in your directory, they're a current user, an eligible user. If for some reason you need to disable their account, delete their account, if it's in your local directory, that takes immediate effect. If you for whatever reason, disable a user within your system, they will no longer be able to log into OpenAthens. Whereas if you use OpenAthens user accounts, so fine, you disable their account within your directory, but you don't immediately update their OpenAthens account or delete it, then they could still be accessing resources because it's not directly hooked up to your local directory.
Fabulous. I had another question here about is there any extra fee to set up either SAML or Microsoft 365 or Outlook email? I'm not.
So going back to this. So if you do it yourself, absolutely not. No. So if you go to the documentation, that will have everything you need to set that up yourself and really gain the benefits of using a local single sign-on system. It's only really the consultancy side of things. So if you want us to basically do all the setup for you, it's only that has a consultancy fee.
Fabulous. So then I read somewhere that same sign-on will be available just by using email without the need for a password. Is this correct? I don't.
Could you ask that again, please, Sophie?
So it says, I read, it's the, if you look in the Q&A box, Adam, it's the first message. I read somewhere that same sign-on will be available just by using email without need for a password. Without the need for a password, is this correct? I think we'd have to refer to what you were reading.
Will be available just by using email without the need for a password. I'm not 100% sure what that is referring to. I mean, if you use OpenAthens user accounts, there is this thing called email login, and that, instead of using I guess you'd call it a bespoke OpenAthens username, so I don't know, Adam001, for example. Instead, you can use the email address as the username. You do still need to authenticate, and that is done by the username and a password, not just by the email. If you're using a local authentication system, again, like Azure, Google, you're still going to enter credentials. So a username and a password. So yeah, it'd be good if you don't mind, if you can remember or find where you read that. If you would be able to share it, that'd be amazing. And more than happy to follow up after the call. But hopefully that answered it.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think that is it for the questions. We'll take that as you explained everything so beautifully, Adam, that no one else is confused. Or actually, as I said that, the Q&A popped up again.
Yeah. Or I bewildered everyone, and
yeah.
it's hard to figure out what the question is.
It's no problem. So yeah, well, and yeah, Jean, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Jean or Jean, said great answer to your answer in regards to the password one.
Thank you, Jan.
So yeah, I think that might be everything then. We are about 10 minutes early, but I don't think that's a bad thing since everyone is, I know everyone is working at 100 miles per hour at the moment. So yeah, I think if we just move on to the last slide, Adam, I don't know if you have anything else that you'd like to add to the webinar as an ending comment.
Not really. Just again, re-emphasizing the fact that if we haven't answered all of your questions, if you do have any follow-up questions, contact us. We're always happy to get involved in conversations and answer questions.
Yeah, I'll echo that as well. So the kind of the best way to get in contact with us, if you are unsure, is obviously to contact the service desk in regarding anything kind of technical and with your account. But if you have any kind of general questions or you're unsure where to go, please email contact@openathens.net, and we kind of triage your questions to the appropriate teams. You know, if you're unsure of where to go. So that is everything. I'd like to say a big public thank you to Adam for presenting. I'm sure many of you recognize Adam's voice. But yeah, thank you so much, Adam, for that presentation. I know a lot of people would have found that very, very useful. And I hope those of you who answered, I don't know what it is, on the poll, now do know what it is. We probably should have done a follow-up, shouldn't we, actually? But next time, we'll do that next time. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. We've got one more 101 webinar for this year because obviously we're going to take a break in December. So yeah, this is the penultimate for 2020. And yeah, you'll get all the information emailed to you as usual. I'm sure you all know the drill by now. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you next time.
Awesome. Thank you all, and thank you, Sophie.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.